One of the sectors that for Egypt is our bread and butter is tourism. This is where most of our revenues actually happen to come from. Recently, in a bid to encourage that sector to help relieve the economic burden, the Egyptian government is opening the flow of domestic tourism. To shed light on this issue, how will this reflect and give a boost to people working in that sector is Mr. Medhat Mourad, who is a member of the Tourism Federation. Mr. Mourad, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very well, thank you.
Recently, the government is giving a boost to encourage domestic tourism. How will this help this sector? This is the hardest hit. And I believe some experts are saying that in the aftermath of COVID-19, it will take years really for this sector to get back on its feet again.
Yes, very much correct. As you know, 1 of 10 people around the world are working in the tourism sector. So we are very much hit. Tourism, together with airlines, together with everyone related to this sector, is very much hit. We have here in Egypt more than 2.5 million people working in tourism. So international tourism obviously will not be starting very soon, and that's why the government decided to start coexisting with the presence of the coronavirus and start opening specific properties around Egypt for domestic, local travelers to go there in a mean to start the operation again. However, taking into consideration that they have to follow specific guidelines, very strict guidelines, and it's health, of course, guidelines related to the hygiene safety. So that's why we started by having like a maximum of 25% of the capacity of the property and only 50% of the staff during the period of operation. Beginning of June, it will be raised for only the properties who were in line with all the guidelines to around 50%.
So we're not operating full capacity yet?
Definitely not. We have to take care about the social distancing. We have to take care about, there are like very, very strict measures, including like there should be a doctor on site at the property, a clinic as well, quarantine floor at each property, so many measures done by the government to ensure that, if I can say that, these properties are coronavirus free. Same goes to the employees, the staff of these properties. There will be like a rapid test done for them as soon as they come back from their vacations. They will have to stay there for 60 days and then return back home for a vacation. When they return to the property, they will be tested again. So that's very, very hygiene standards that will be followed very strictly in order to make sure gradually that at least these properties try to cover for the costs of the employments as well as the operations.
Sir, we have a minute or so before I have to wrap up. So can domestic tourism cover the running cost? Are you expecting that people will actually embark on domestic tourism to cover the running cost of those facilities?
Well, honestly, it's a learning phase for everyone, including the tourism sector and the people and the management working in the tourism sector. So it will be up to each property in the end of the day to decide if they will be able to run at these procedures of safety and capacity or not. Because definitely some of them, their cost may be even more, and how much will be they selling for? That's a big question. Will people afford to go to these resorts at a very expensive rate because the minimum percentage of occupancy? That's another question. So these all are questions that will be answered, but we are learning by practice here. The whole sector, the whole world is learning by practice at this time for COVID-19.
Will there be good offers to encourage people to actually go and use those facilities? Taking into account that tourism is not the only sector that is hit. People's economy has been affected on the personal level.
Yes, very true. And that's why the government is opening, all the governments around the world. The countries themselves are still closed for international visitors, but at least for local visitors from the countries that will be opening. If I would say, I would go with my car, with my kids to one of the resorts, enjoy just a few days over there, save the money, and come back. If I can afford to fly, we will see very shortly the regulation of operating the flights as well, because
yes.
Again, social distancing and safety on board of the flights are very, very important.
Yes. Mr. Medhat Mourad, thank you very much for your fruitful input. I'd like to thank you, the viewers. Our time is up. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you same time next week. Until then, good night.